We mentioned in ethics a little bit about listening, but we're going to explore listening a little bit more right now. Listening becomes a very important element of public speaking. For a speaker, it is important because that is how we get our feedback from the audience and how we learn what we need to improve, what information we need to put out there. But listening as an audience member also allows us to see what we like about how a person presents, and so we can incorporate that into our own presentations. What we want to talk about is listening overall, critical thinking, poor listening, how to become a better listener, and note-taking. Listening is very important. Oftentimes I refer to this class as a public listening class because yes, you do 4 speeches in this class, but through videos I'm going to share with you, through the lecture, you get to listen a lot more than you end up publicly speaking. You do a lot of public listening. And for that reason, if you can increase your listening skills, you do better at public speaking in this class and in the future. Listening and critical thinking go together, because if we don't have a critical analysis of the messages that we're receiving, we don't actually move them into our long-term memory. They don't become memorable. We also don't analyze and look at the elements. Should we believe this person? Are they persuasive? Are they not persuasive? And so we fall into different categories of listening that either engage or don't engage critical thinking. Appreciative listening, that doesn't really engage our critical thinking. Appreciative listening is where we're just listening to appreciate the poetry of the words. Maybe we just appreciate the way the person delivers. We're not actually breaking down the information. Empathetic listening, that's where we're just listening, but it's more of a situation where the listening is more about the connection of emotions with a person. It's not really breaking down their message, but it's sharing in that aspect. Comprehensive listening, that's what you do a lot in class, where you're looking for the important elements to take your notes, to take the test later on, so they all kind of tie in. But when you hit critical listening, you're not only appreciating it, you're not only feeling the message, you're not only picking out the key elements, but you're analyzing each of those. You're taking a look at what emotions are they trying to stir. Is the logic they're using good? Are they using fallacies? Are they being persuasive? And you're able to break it down and take a look at each critical element of a speech. And if you can start doing this through listening, it helps you a lot when you're listening to that salesman or that politician or the coach. All those things, you can then begin to critically analyze it and truly get more out of their message than even their words are saying. Causes of poor listening. Listening too hard. Oddly, this is a possibility where you're trying to say so focused on each word that's coming out of their mouth and you're trying to analyze each little aspect of it, you soon fall behind and you stop comprehending the message. And so you actually are listening too hard. You're focusing too much. You're not allowing that natural exchange to occur. Jumping to conclusions. All right, well, they start off this, so this is where they're going, so I'm going to stop listening because I already know what they're going to say. But you may not know what they're going to say. So by jumping to conclusion, you turn off your listening process and you no longer connect. Focusing on delivery and personal appearance. This can be difficult because as we talk about when we get to body language and nonverbal, your audience makes a quick judgment about you. And as a speaker, if you're looking at your audience and you make a judgment based on that, when they ask questions or when they have suggestions, well, you can improve your speech this way, you don't hear them because instead you're focusing on something other than the message. Listening to respond. This is such a failure because it truly does stop the listening process. As the information is coming in, rather than listening to the entire message, instead of applying critical thinking, you start formulating your response. You start clicking and you're like, oh, I'm going to say this. Oh, they said that one thing, so I know I'm going to attack them on that. And that becomes hostile and it becomes aggressive, and you're cherry picking and you're using bias, and you really have broken down the communication model. So you want to listen to understand, not to respond. How to become a better listener? Take the responsibility of listening seriously. If a person says to you, hey, I have to do this presentation, can you listen to my speech? And you say yes, then take it as a serious responsibility. Not to just correct, not to respond, but listen and then critically analyze it, and the feedback you give will be much more important. Be an active listener and get rid of distractions. In other words, put down your cell phone, turn off your cell phone, make eye contact, give feedback. Let them know that you're actively listening, you've reduced distractions, and you're not going to judge what they're saying until you had a chance to analyze it and you can provide feedback for them. So suspend judgments. That can include the personal appearance part or apparel, etc. And focus. Be an active listener with the person. And as I mentioned, focusing, this is how you do it. You listen for main points. Now, in this class, you're going to have a format given to you. And in this format, you will easily be able to tell how a speaker, where their main points are and where you locate those. Because here's your chance to take some notes if you want. I'm only going to mention it probably about a dozen more times throughout the semester. But our first thing is we always do our attention getter. After we get our attention of the audience, we give our thesis. What is our speech about? Then we tell them our credibility. You know, why are you listening to me? Well, you're listening to me because I'm the professor that's teaching this class. Perhaps, maybe you're listening to them because they're an expert on something, or they study something, or something is interesting to them. That's their credibility. They preview what they're going to tell you. That's your first chance to catch the main points. Then they transition into the body of the speech, and then they tell you what they told you they were going to tell you. They go over each point. Then they transition to the conclusion, and with the conclusion, they review. So there you are. You've now gotten those main points 3 times. Followed by, they go back, readdress the thesis, and then finally, you have your mic drop, your clincher, what you want your audience truly to leave with. We'll go over those again. That's one time. We only got a couple dozen times left. You also, what evidence are they providing? Because now you know the main points. How are they supporting those main points? Are they just using pathos and emotion? Are they using logic and logos? How exactly are they supporting? What evidence are they giving? Finally, what technique are they utilizing? Are they using repetition? Are they using fallacies? What exactly are the technique they are using to provide the evidence that supports the main points? So you see, by focusing, you look for these things. This will also help you in evaluating your own speeches, because you'll be able to go back and say, oh yeah, I did this. Oh, I really didn't support that second point because I didn't provide evidence, and the technique for delivering it was poor. So you'll be able to help evaluate and improve your speeches that way. Note taking. Yes, do take notes. Taking notes is very helpful. You can do it any format you want. These are several ideas. But what they found is that by note taking, you're actually repeating information that moves it from your short-term memory of about 4 to 6 seconds and moves it into your long-term memory, where you can then retrieve it and utilize it in the future. So find what note-taking method works for you. I'm not going to force one on you. I'm not going to say you have to use this basic structure. No, whatever works best for you, because they're your notes. So when you're listening to a speaker, taking notes will help you analyze, focus, review, and enhance your listening experience. So note-taking is a great idea. What we want to talk about is listening, critical thinking, poor listening and the causes of it, how to be a better listener, and note-taking. As I mentioned, in this class, you are going to give 4 speeches, but you're going to listen to a lot more. You're going to listen to the lecture, you're going to listen to examples that I give you, you're going to perhaps listen to fellow students as they prepare for speeches. So all these are great opportunities to listen and to practice listening. And if you have any questions, once again, just let me know. But practice listening, become a better listener, listen to your own speeches. These are all things that will help improve your speech.